President Barrow unveils committee to clear the greater Banjul areas of broken vehicles as concerns were raised over its rapid dumping. Nigerian health authorities are worried as India's COVID-19 crisis disrupts their drug supply.
Najib Bilgesim remembers the last Eid
concerns, Tunisia celebrates Eid in rather unusual circumstances due to its restriction measures. These and more coming on The World Today. Stay with us. Good evening, viewers. You're watching The World Today newscast here on Africa TV with me, Sohna Tunkara, and now to our top stories. It is very common to find highway pavements in the greater Banjul areas dumped with second-hand goods in the name of business. This leads to permanent blockage of the path for pedestrians and motorists in the traffic, contributing a high quota in the daily traffic jams. The menace is in fact described as a serious environmental pollution by elders of the country's capital city, calling in the intervention from the presidency. More of that in this report. The space taken by second-hand heavy machinery, household and industrial appliances along every highway across the country's city sites formed part of the concern conveyed to President Barrow when the Muslim elders of Banjul called on him in observance of the feast marking the end of Ramadan. Such a meeting at the State House is held every religious feast, during which senior citizens of the capital city and the president interact and exchange goodwill messages. President Adama Barrow, together with Vice President Dr. Aissatou Toure, hosted the Muslim elders in continuity of the old tradition, paving ways for discussion of wide range of developmental issues of the country. The Thursday engagement came at a time when the project to uplift the beauty of Banjul has taken shape, with President Barrow boasting of the progress as one of his government's greatest legacies. Worldwide, items made in the past are described as the making of quality over quantity, especially regarding textile and furniture. However, the volume of second-hand goods, including cars and other heavy-duty materials on every space, has shadowed the hygiene and beauty of the greater Banjul areas, according to the Banjulians. In fact, the situation is equated with a classical dumping of waste in the residential areas.
dafa am luñ sétlu lo xamné
ye fenne korosi mi yalon ko
su ci government jému da def dara.
The committee has observed something, that if stands are not taken, all your government's effort might go in vain. There is an issue with cars found along roadsides across the country. All cars are dumped literally in every part of Banjul, and the likelihood of those cars fit for repair is very slim. These cars are causing environmental hazards, and it is more prevalent in the combos, where all containers and cars that do not meet operational standards in Europe are all dumped here in the country.
Among the list, worn-out car tires are among the most common trash not to dump sites, but in the streets and every junction within the city sites.
Sentaye yu magget yi nga xamné ken sañatu ko use Europe.
There is a bigger problem. Lots of car tires are also dumped in the country. I believe it is a contributing factor to accidents. We have environmental experts here. They know the danger attached to such. People burn car tires when they are of no use, and this act can weaken our health due to the toxic fumes that emanates from them. We are urging the government to strengthen up measures to stabilize this situation, because it can deliver bigger problems to the country.
As the issue constituted a concern worth sharing to the presidency by the Banjul elders, they appeared to have an existing project, but yet to roll out to address the issue of street clearing. President Barrow used the opportunity to disclose the constitution of a committee, which is set to address the issue immediately after the month of fasting.
last week the chief of police sita.
Just last week, we sat with the Chief of Police to discuss the issues of used vehicles parked all over the country. We were waiting for the end of Ramadan to start the operation, whereby all used vehicles will be taken care of, or else the government will take them away. We will also contract people to pick up all the thrown away tires off the highways. Those that are importing these tires into the country will be advised as to how these tires should be handled in a way that will not affect anyone in the country.
This aspect of the discussion during the meeting of Banjul elders and President Barrow is a vibration of critics' concern over the high volume of importation of used goods from the west to these parts of Africa. Most of it, especially motor vehicles, stays so long on public pavements for reasons best known to the importers. The scenarios reflect official dumping and pollution of residential and workplaces across the country's urban areas. While there is no specific regulation to address this form of concern, environmental and health policies might be used as reference to empower the police in the proposed operation to clear the country of the tons of used mechanical and household goods. For African News, Sohna Tunkara. And from that, senior registration officers of the Independent Electoral Commission on Friday began a 3-day training on voter registration ahead of the December 2021 presidential election. The training is geared towards preparing the senior officers with knowledge and skills needed for the conduct of voter registration effectively. The ICC attended the training and she now reports.
Elections are often regarded as a complex process that requires the participation of key players who perform different activities and functions. The conduct of general voter registration is among the key activities on schedule for the making of a presidential choice for the country in about 7 months' time. Speaking at the opening of the 3-day training sessions, the chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Ali Mohamed Njai, said the importance of the exercise could not be emphasized, calling on all eligible voters to book their voting tickets.
I would like to take this opportunity to call on all eligible Gambians to turn out to register during this period. This would enable them to participate in the various elections, which is a civil duty for all citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, as senior registration officers, you have a huge task ahead. It will be your responsibility to ensure the success of the registration in your assigned areas or constituencies. I have no doubt that the highly committed team of trainers from the IEC and SI would provide you with the necessary training you require.
The Director of Training, Communication and Public Affairs at the IEC, Pama Kankan, explained the process in which the training will be carried out.
The trainers, I hope they would do well, because we have a very good team of trainers. Because training will be done actually in 2 folds. First will be done by the IEC facilitators, who would train on the laws, on the procedures of voter registration. And then there will be another training done by the ESI officials. This is the company which is recruited to conduct the voter registration. So those teams would also be training the trainees on how to use their equipments, their gadgets. These are the machines they would use to register people, the laptops, the printers, and all those gadgets. So we hope from these group of trainers that they will be able to deliver on the goals, so that they train the trainees very well, so that when they go out in the field, they can perform as expected.
The training exercise will be done in 2 phases. The first part includes the use of the IEC voter registration processes and procedures, while the second segment focuses on the practical process of voter registration.
The 2021 voter registration is to be held from the 29th of May to 11 July 2021. The Commission will engage 220 registration teams, which will be deployed to 370 registration centers across the country. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy Se.
From the report by Ndaisi Say, we move on to the global front, where Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif visited Syria's capital, Damascus, on Wednesday to discuss a series of regional problematic issues. Syrian President and Foreign Minister met with their Iranian guests for talks on bilateral relations, the political process in Syria, the Iran nuclear deal, and regional conflicts. They made a particular address on the rising tensions between Palestine and Israel.
Iran Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif calls on the international community to make efforts to prevent the escalation of Israel-Palestinian tensions, which has created deep concerns worldwide as violence in the region grows. After hundreds of Palestinians got injured in clashes with Israeli police in East Jerusalem on Monday morning, Hamas, which governs the Gaza Strip, launched rocket attacks against Jerusalem in the afternoon. Speaking of the ties with the Arab world, Zarif says that Iran has established contacts with Saudi Arabia for increased cooperation. Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad also says that his country has always wanted to bring the Arab states closer and also voices his country's support for the negotiations on the Iranian nuclear deal. Faisal Mekdad, Syrian Foreign Minister. We have reiterated that we fully support the negotiations between Iran and other related parties on the nuclear deal. Relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia severed in 2016, but with violent escalation within the Arab region, the two countries have resumed talks, which they say is aimed at easing regional tensions. The Iran nuclear deal was introduced in 2015, but its implementation was paralyzed by the United States' withdrawal in 2018. Iran's economy has suffered a harsh blow since sanctions on the country were reimposed by the U.S. former President Donald Trump's administration after Washington unilaterally abandoned the 2015 nuclear agreement, officially known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The JCPOA Joint Commission has restarted meetings which aim to negotiate the United States' return to the deal and Iran to resume full compliance. The Biden administration says they are willing to resume talks on the nuclear negotiations. Reporting for iAfrica TV, this is Omar Ahmadou Toure.
The Imam of Kanifing Estate Marks has urged Gambian youths to put more focus on knowledge and skill acquisition in preparation of the future. Babali released this advice during the Eid al-Fitr message to his followers in Kanifing. Fatmata Kasim files in this report.
Youths are one of the most flexible people in the country, as they represent the age of all forms of life struggles. In some quarters, they are known as the backbone of national development, given their potential role and contribution in the management of all sectors. Imam Babali gave a hint as to how the younger generation might be protected.
But the youths, they should protect their future. And the best way to protect your future is to focus on what can benefit you and benefit your family. That is to learn knowledge, to learn trade, and avoid this drug attitude, this, crime and expecting to have easy money. There is no easy way to success. You must work hard. You must read hard. You must do everything with seriousness, with honesty, so that Allah will bless your deeds. But this kind of crime, especially killing our ladies, our girl, folks. If you are following the media, there are a lot of killings to our young girls. One happened recently in Lamen. One happened before, I think, Banjulunding or Yundum, and the crime that happened in Sanyang with the fishermen issues. A lot of crime, you cannot count them.
In view of the 2021 electoral calendar, Imam Babali called on Gambians to maintain peace while supporting their political parties.
The best commodity that Gambia has to market is peace and peacefulness. That's why we call ourselves the Smiling Coast. Having the Smiling Coast, I think it needs to be protected jealously, and it should be for all Gambians. I did mention nobody would for somebody to take certain risk or offend your fellow Gambian or insult using foul words against each other, trying to pull down your fellow Gambian, your fellow Muslim, just because of the interests of party politics or difference of leaders in the party or loving a position. It doesn't work. A Muslim doesn't behave like that.
Babali is a well-known Islamic cleric, scholar, and human rights activist. He is a sitting commissioner on the National Human Rights Commission for the Gambia. He started his career as a teacher and later assumed the role of imam at the Kanifing Estate Mosque. His diverse skill set includes training as an engineer. He also served as member of the Hajj and Umrah Commission until the early 2000s. He was among the founding members of Gamkotrap, a human rights organization fighting against harmful traditional practices, including female genital mutilation. For iAfrica News, I am Fatmata Kasim.
As the COVID-19 cases continue to rise in India and people's awareness increases on the value of getting tested, there are fewer medical professionals available to meet the increased testing demand. As a result, medics in various communities in Mumbai use motorcycles to conduct door-to-door COVID-19 sample collection for testing.
Death toll surges in India has passed a grim milestone as the pandemic rages across the vast country of 1.35 billion people. The world's second most populous country has recorded a huge rise in deaths from COVID-19 over the last 48 hours, pushing its total fatalities past the 250,000 mark. There are fewer medical professionals available to meet the increased testing as India's health sector continues to be overwhelmed by the surge in cases. In Mumbai, the government has ramped up door-to-door community testing in residential communities where there are surge in cases. Such an operation is expected to help government map out high-risk zones and introduce restrictions measures. Munit Shukla has been collecting samples for COVID-19 tests since the advent of the coronavirus pandemic, and home collection medics like him are increasingly suffering and face risks of being infected in executing their work as the cases spike daily. India's COVID-19 tally crossed 24 million on Friday, with 343,144 new cases registered in the past 24 hours, while the number of deaths from the coronavirus swelled by 4,205, the country's health ministry said. Karijatu Seka, iAfrica News.
And from the report on India's COVID-19 cases, we'll go with a short commercial break. More news to come on the world today. Do stay tuned.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back. If you're just watching, this is the World Today newscast. Now to the rest of our stories. Nigerian health authorities are worried that the COVID-19 situation in India could affect medical supply in the West African state. Aside from the coronavirus vaccines, Nigeria may run short of other medications commonly used in the country, according to its pharmaceutical society. As India suspends exports of COVID-19 vaccines, many other countries may not receive their second batches of the vaccine. More of that in this report.
Long before India faced its devastating resurgence of COVID-19 cases, the impact of the pandemic itself on drug supply was already being felt in one of Nigeria's biggest pharmaceutical markets. A huge amount of drugs sold in this market in Kano State, northwest Nigeria, comes from India. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit last year, supply began to dwindle. But with the current situation in India, the man who heads the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria says supply to the country could be further impacted.
We anticipate that there is going to be some negative impact because India is the world's factory for manufacturing, especially pharmaceuticals. Nigeria, for example, and countries that depend on importation will have some impact, and I think many companies are yet to recover. So, like going from bad to worse.
He says the impact could hit a wide range of drugs other than the COVID-19 vaccine.
We saw several APIs, raw materials from India, both antibiotics, antidiabetics, antihypertensives, and other medications that are commonly used in our country. And what is worse, certain dosage forms. For example, injectables are hardly made in this country or in West Africa, so we have to import those dosage forms that are injectables. But the range is large.
In March, Nigeria received nearly 4 million doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine manufactured by the Serum Institute of India. It's only the first batch of the 16 million doses promised by COVAX. But with India now restricting COVID vaccine exports and prioritizing domestic demand, there are fears Nigeria's second batch may not be arriving anytime soon.
Well, that again creates some downside for us and for the world. First, that India is a manufacturing hub for the globe. Both AstraZeneca and other brands are manufacturing have some of their plants in India. So first, there is a reduction in global supply, and when that reduction in global supply happens, Africa and by extension Nigeria will have issues.
The government has been injecting funds into the pharmaceutical sector to ramp up production of some generic drugs. At least 26 local pharmaceutical companies have so far benefited from a low-interest loan scheme initiated by the central bank to build capacities in the industry. But with the COVID-19 vaccine, there's yet no local capacity for its production. And it's why Nigeria is hoping the COVID-19 situation in India abates as quickly as possible.
On to our last story. Due to growing concerns on coronavirus, Tunisians celebrated this year's Eid in rather unusual circumstances as the government imposed tight measures to cope the spread of the virus. Since last year, people have been forced to adapt new measures to mingle and communicate with friends during Eid celebrations. Muslims in the North African state have accepted advice from the government during the Ramadan with hope that the situation will improve soon. Here's more of that in this report.
Neji bin Bilgesim remembers the last Eid al-Fitr when he used to go to the mosque to pray. But this year, Neji is offering greetings and congratulations on Eid from home. All mass prayers were banned by the authorities during the general lockdown to stem the spread of the coronavirus.
It's unfortunate to have to celebrate this religious day at home. I'm calling my brothers and family and talking to them through social media. This is unusual but necessary to save lives. It's difficult to cope with marking Eid al-Fitr at home. I have only seen my nephew who lives in the same area. People are afraid of the coronavirus.
Neji's wife, Munira, is happy to see her granddaughters after several months of isolation. She has taught the two children how to make traditional sweets to impress their online guests.
This Eid was different because we could not meet all our family members due to the pandemic. At least I was lucky to see my granddaughters who helped me to prepare the traditional sweets. I made traditional food for lunch. It was a happy day despite the social distancing.
Many Tunisians have respected the prevention measures imposed by the government during the holy month of Ramadan, as well as on Eid al-Fitr.
The pandemic has made us rethink our festivities and celebrations. I just visited my uncle while I stood on the outside door of other relatives. The virus is deadly. That's why we need to comply with safety measures. I hope this is the last Eid al-Fitr in these conditions. Coronavirus has changed all our habits.
Eid al-Fitr 2021 is the third Eid to be celebrated amid the pandemic. Tunisian Muslims performed the Eid prayer at home as mosques across the country remained closed as a COVID-19 safety measure. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic and the general lockdown in the country, Eid al-Fitr remains one of the most important religious celebrations for Muslims in Tunisia and the world. Health authorities assert that social distancing is one of the key strategies in flattening the curve of infection rates.
But a report on Tunisia brings today's newscast to an end. You can catch up with Mariama Cham on Gambia 24 at 2000 hours for more national stories. Thanks for watching. I am Sahna Tunkara, and bye for now.